Hi everyone, it's Janet and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to show you 3 ways to use the new Diamond Press Paper Fashion Kit. This kit is still available over at the HSN website. In case you're interested in it, I'll have a link in the video description. For those of you who have it, I want to show you how to put the 3 different dresses together and some card background ideas. So let's start by taking a look at what comes in each kit. All right, I'm getting ready to do the reveal. Everything that comes in this paper fashion stamp and die set is right here. We have instructions, and we've got 2 pieces of carrier sheets with stamps on it. These are large pattern stamps, and then some words. And you can use those patterns for background to the dresses, or you can actually stamp on the dress pieces. They include a folder for die cutting, and then there are 2 carrier sheets full of the word dies and then all the dress dies, including a dress form and also a hanger. So you have a couple different ways to display the dresses if you want to do that. Now here are the instructions. As usual, they're pretty good. It shows you how to make the dress form, shows you the 3 finished dresses and what they should look like, shows you an example of using those patterned stamps, and then we see all the different combinations of the stamped words with the flags and then also the large die cut words, which is great to see all the examples. On the back side you see the 3 dresses and all the layers, and I'm going to show you how to put all 3 of these dresses together, and I'll put them on card bases so you can see some ideas. So here are all the pieces for the first dress I'm going to make. It's not a whole lot of pieces, and then over here on the right is going to be the dress form and the word that I'm going to use, which is happiness. So let me show you how to cut these pieces. I'm going to start with some nice vellum, and I've got a link to vellum that I use. It's a nice heavy-duty vellum. If you're looking for something that really does cut well and emboss well, I got the perfect product for you. So anyway, you can check that out on your own, but the link is in the video description. What I'm cutting here is the 2nd layer and the 3rd layers to this particular dress, and this is the long dress with kind of the wraparound skirt on the outside of the main skirt. So I'm going to use my Bira Sunlit mini machine here. I don't have a diamond press marquee, so I have to find an alternative. These are small pieces, and for this kind of work I really do enjoy using my little Bira Sunlit machine on my desk. It's pretty handy and it does a great job, so you don't necessarily need the marquee. I am very sure that Diamond Press would much rather show me using the marquee than my own die cutting machines, but you have to do what you have to do. I've also successfully used my Big Shot machine and also my Gemini, so you have other options besides just the marquee. Now I'm going to cut the base of the dress. I'm using a white Yupo kind of paper. I think I'm saying that right, but what you can see is the different fibers in this paper. It's quite light, but is a little more interesting than plain white cardstock. But I do want white because I'm making a wedding dress in this case. At least that's what I'm making in my imagination. And that, my friends, are all the pieces you need for this dress. It is the easiest of the dress and probably the most dramatic looking, I think. I'm going to prepare the rest of the pieces for this card, so I'm going to go ahead and die cut the word happiness and also the waistband die for this dress, and I'm using a peach textured cardstock. This is a great way to tie together the dress with the word used in the card because both pieces are made with the same cardstock and so they match, and it just helps everything to come together really nicely. So I give you that as a potential hint when you're making your dresses and how to tie that in with the words to make things look nice. Now they don't have to be the same, but it is one quick and easy way to get them to kind of coordinate and go together well. I'm going to cut out the dress form now, and I've got a piece of black cardstock and then that black die. This is the full dress form die, and I know you can't see it. It just disappears on that black cardstock. But there's a silver piece of cardstock below here, and it's the bottom of the dress form, the top of the dress form, and then that smiley face is actually going to be a necklace for the dress form. And then I'm going to run this through my little machine. And this is the way that you're supposed to make your dress form. Later on in the video, I'm going to show you an easier way to do this that I think is much, much easier and quicker. But, you know, I want to show you the way it's intended first, and then we can go from there. Okie dokie. So the way you're supposed to do this is you would put some glue on the base of your dress form, and then you would apply the piece that goes on the top that represents the base of it. But this is a very, very delicate cut here. It's very, very small and narrow, and it's hard to manipulate this cut piece on the top, get everything to line up one on top of the other, and do it fast enough for the glue not to stick. Because of course you can't put a lot of glue on this because it's not very big, and it would just seep out all over and become a big mess. So as you can see, I'm trying this twice. I was able to salvage it, and I'm going to try it again. It's awkward, and I didn't enjoy it. And the results are really not all that great because it is, again, very, very hard to get that swirl part of the base to line up one on top of the other and not show a shadow or anything. Now, I guess if you wanted a shadow base, that'd be okay, but I wasn't going for that. Now, I finally was successful, and it got it pretty well. I can still see a little bit of the black showing on the edges in some areas down here, but it really isn't too much. And to be honest, with this particular dress, it's so long, most of this is going to be entirely covered up. Now, they give you the little top to put on as well, and that's supposed to match the base. And again, quite small to manipulate and to get perfectly one on top of the other, but I will say it's a lot easier than the base was. So there's that going for it. I'm going to bring out one of these patterned stamps that came in this set. This is the Polka Dots, and I'm going to just ink up the center of that because the piece isn't very big, and I've just put it on top of a piece of scratch paper so that the excess Versamark goes on that paper. Then I'm going to turn it over because it does stick, and just rub over the top of it and make sure I get a good impression. This is the second layer in the dress, by the way. I probably should state that. Now, by all means, instead of doing it this way, you could put your piece in a stamp platform like your Misty, or you could even stamp a larger square of vellum first and then cut it out after you've embossed it into the dress layer. Either way will work very well. It's just that I'm comfortable enough skipping that step, and this is a glitter type embossing powder on vellum, which means that you're not going to really pick up if there are slight imperfections in the embossing. So for that reason too, I'm comfortable doing this. It's a lot different from embossing a word or something like that where you can really make out any kind of flaw. So for my purposes, this works pretty good, and that scratch piece of paper will absorb any of the Versamark that goes over the top and isn't used, and it's just nice and clean and handy. So there you go. That is my dress piece, which I think is really pretty. At this point, you can put your dress together. It's really simple. You start by putting the second layer on top of the base dress. I just put a tiny line of glue at the top of the piece, as you saw, and it is easy to match up to the dress base because the bottom matches up to the base really well, and you can see if you're in the right place or not. Then these are those wraparound pieces, and again, just using a really thin strip of art glitter glue, and I'm going to put that on top, and that also matches up with this base. It perfectly aligns to the top of the waistline down to the side of the dress, and each piece does the same. So they're kind of like wings in a way. They remind me of wings a little bit. So that little tiny bit of glue is enough to keep it in place. Now I'm going to use that waistband, that tiny little waistband I cut a few minutes ago. Same thing, going to put a tiny thin line of glue there and apply that. Now, art glitter glue dries completely clear, so if there's any glue showing, it should be fine. The waistband at the top should also cover a little bit of any excess glue that shows up there. I applied some glue to the back of the dress and I'm going to put it on the dress form now. And I just completely forgot that I didn't need the glue over the entire dress, so I'm just going to clean that up with a paper towel. If you make that mistake, that'll work for you to clean it up. Now it has a necklace die, and I cut that with the bottom of the dress form, if you remember. And now I'm going to put it at the neckline of the dress line. And by the way, that was my son throwing something on my table to look at. He didn't realize I was filming, so but I guess that was fine. Anyway, here is the dress form with that silver necklace, and then I'm going to just cut a single jewel. This is from a strip jewel sticker, basically. And I'm going to use that as the jewel for the middle of her necklace. And it just is the right size and adds an extra elegance to it. I did feel like the second layer just didn't lay flat enough for my taste, so I put tiny little drops of glue behind some of those embossed polka dots and pressed that down, and that solved that issue. It looks really nice now. To save a little time, I went ahead and picked one of the phrases in the kit that says "Wishing You." I stamped it with Versamark and heat embossed it with black embossing powder. And now I'm getting ready to cut it out. Now the set comes with this really pretty flag, and what's awesome is that, you know, these are made to work together. So all the sentiment phrases are going to fit in this flag, and it's just the right width and everything else. The only thing I would, caution you on is just to make sure that you tack everything down before you cut it, because you sure don't want anything to move. There are quite a few tapes on the market. There's purple tape, there's blue painter's tape. I just prefer to use some washi tape. It's inexpensive and it does the trick. All right, so that is finished, and here are the pieces that I'm going to use on the card. And with that, let me bring in the card panel I've prepared. Now, for this beautiful flower image, this is actually some wide washi tape from Eyelet Outlet. I'll put a link to that so you can find it if you're interested. The background is some white paper with embossed silver on it. It came this way, so if you can find papers to help you like this so you don't have to do the embossing, by all means, go to it. I'd like to try to find shortcuts and ways to make my card making less time intensive, and so using papers like that can help you out. I put double-sided foam tape on the back of this dress, and then I'm going to apply it to the panel. This panel is 4 by 5¼ inches, and I will put this on a A2 sized card base when it's done, and that of course is 5.5 by 4¼ Now, this is the Wishing You sentiment. I'm going to apply that flat onto the card using some art glitter glue. And I will just apply that down. And then the happiness will be applied the same way. I have a habit of not getting things on straight, so I really have to concentrate and look at that. I don't know if you have that issue or not, but I'm terrible at it. I don't know why. In any case, to apply this happiness word, I'm using just little drops of art glitter glue, and I will apply it then just right onto the card base as well. One hint here is you could easily stack multiple layers of the word together and glue them to form a more chunky word. That would be more substantial on the card, but I didn't take the time to do that today. So my card is pretty much done at this point. I just need to apply that panel onto the A2 size card base. This is going to fold at the top. I made it out of the same cardstock as I did the word and the waistline of the dress, and also the washi tape has some peach in it too, so it pulls everything all together. The final touch is going to be a pearl on that waistline, and that will finish this card up. So I'm on to card 2 now. This is kind of the floofy, sort of retro style dress, and actually I decided to make this look like a retro kind of 50s 60s dress, and I'm starting by doing the base here out of some pink vellum that has kind of a rose pattern in it. This vellum is got to be like 30 years old. I've had this around for a long time. And really the only thing that's going to show out of that whole base is going to be the top of the dress. So I just wanted to get it a little bit of pattern there and some light pink. So that's how I decided to do it. Now this is the second layer. I'm skipping around a little bit. I'm doing the second before the first, but this is just plain vellum again. I'm not going to do anything fancy with this. It's just going to be what it is. So that one is cut, and then the next layer I'm going to do is actually the first layer. And for this I'm choosing that same white Yupo paper. Now both the second and first layer in this case, you're not going to see much of it. It's only the very bottom of it that's going to show. These are the bottom layers of the skirt. I decided at the last second to add the waistband to this white Yupo paper, but I decided in the end to use a different cardstock for that. But still, I cut it. Now I'm going to cut the hanger. And I'm going to use black cardstock for that. So I'll put a little piece of black on my cutting mat here and lay down the hanger. And then I've got some black glitter cardstock, which I'm going to use for the top of my dress. This is the neckline. And then also, again, there's the waistband. And that's what I ended up using for the waistband, which worked so much better because the black neckline and the waistband then tied together, and it looks really nice that way. Once again, I've got a small rectangle piece of vellum and I'm stamping it with Versamark using one of those background stamps. This one on the carrier sheet is orange and it's got vines on it. It's really a pretty pattern. So same method, I'm going to flip it over and use my finger to make sure I get good coverage on that Versamark, and then use my tweezers to pull it off. This time I'm going to use some glitter pink embossing powder, and if you can kind of figure this out, it's getting to be very retro. We've got the black glitter and now the pink glitter. It's very 50-ish, 60-ish type prom dress look, and it turns out really awesome. So I hope you'll stick around and see the end here. I'm going to heat emboss it, and you can see how pretty that is. And then I'm going to finally cut it. Again, this is the third layer in the directions. And that embossing is going to put the pleats in the dress for me. Now you can see it did kind of cut through some of the sections, but it's okay because the top of the dress is still intact, and I'm going to be attaching this dress at the top. Now the first thing we do is put on the first layer, of course. This is that Yupo paper, and you can actually apply a lot of glue on this if you wanted to, because the only thing that's going to show in the end is the very bottom of the different dress layers, except for, of course, the last third layer. So it doesn't really matter too much about your glue placement and all that. And you can see here on my second layer, which is the plain vellum, I just put my glue in the center of the skirt. It looks terrible, but you know what? It's not going to show, so that's why I'm doing it, and that will then secure that dress layer down too, so it's not trying to pop up too much. And then finally, there is the third layer, which has that pretty pink embossing in it, and it really comes to life when this goes on. You'll see what I mean in a second. It just transforms. And then I'm going to add the black glitter waistband. But wait, there's more. After this, I'm going to add the black glitter neckline, and it just is so pretty. And again, so retro. Love it. This is by far my favorite dress of the group that I've made. I'm going to hang this one off of that black hanger. Just a little dab of glue at each end of the hanger will do it. And it was a little awkward, but I finally got it attached there. And now you get that beautiful sweetheart neckline look. Now my top layer here just really didn't want to lay flat at all, so I decided to use a few drops of glue again behind thicker areas of pattern where the embossing was, and that allows it to stay down. It did the trick, and you cannot see any of that glue. So if you have a similar trouble either with vellum or cardstock when you're using these patterns, you might try that. All right, now I can put it on the card base that I made. I'm just going to apply it to the right side, and again I use double-sided foam tape for this. I want to point out that my card base has pink cardstock, which matches the birthday die cut and also the flag die cut. And then in addition, I've used that black glitter cardstock for another frame, which of course ties into the waistband and neckline. So just pointing these out just as little design tips, again, as a way to connect everything together and make it look like it belongs. You can repeat some of the cardstock in different areas of both the base of the card and in the main pieces, and it'll all come together nicely. All right, so again, I'm applying the phrase birthday. I did not layer this up, but I would say that it probably would look nicer if it was layered up. But again, didn't take the time to do that with today's cards, but would be a nice touch. So there you go. That is card number 2. I'm not going to put any more embellishment on it. I just like it nice and clean and simple. And now we're on to the most advanced of the dresses. This one has 5 layers, count them 5, plus a waistband, plus the dress base. All those layers work together to create a ruffled dress. And I've cut the pieces here. I've used a plain pale yellow for the base, and then I've used very small patterns in pink and then multicolored for the layers or the ruffles. Now the different layers go very easily onto the dress base because they've done a good job matching the different layers to the base. So you can easily tell where your pieces should go. Of course, the bottom one is the easiest because it matches the bottom and the sides, but even the others that go on top are not that bad because the sides of the ruffles perfectly match the little divots in the dress base, so you can tell where that layer is supposed to rest. So I give Diamond Press credit for doing a great job of matching all that up. Another tip I could give on this, because colors and patterns are really going to matter on how well this dress comes off, is that if you can use papers from the same paper pad, at least you will know that the colors don't clash and that everything will match nicely together. It's a little harder for me if I just look at my leftover paper scraps and try to pick something for this, because I tend to know what colors should go together, but my tones are often not right. So it will still look okay, but not as good as it would if everything did match in both the colors and the tones. So anyway, there's my little tip for you on that. If you're really good with color and patterns, that's obviously not a problem for you. In the same paper pack, there is a brown polka dot, and the polka dot is so fine and tiny, it's really hard to see that in this waistband here in the video. But you can make it out in person with the naked eye. And here again, brown is not necessarily a choice you would think of with these other pastel colored cardstocks, but it comes in that same paper pad, so I know it's going to work well. Now, I'm going to show you the easier way to make the dress form. So I have my silver paper out here again, and the instructions say you should use that large die with the whole dress form and use it to cut what you are planning to use for the dress form itself. But I'm cutting it with what I want the base to be here, because I'm going to show you a way that's easier than trying to match up that fine base. Now next I'm going to cut the very same thing out of the dress form piece. Now this is that brown with the polka dots I mentioned that I used on the waistband. And I am not going to cut the bottom, the separate bottom piece for the stand or the top of the dress form stand. Instead, I'm going to cut off on the dress form piece both the very top and also the base. And you can probably see where I'm going here. I'm going to trim off the piece that's going to be my base and trim down the dress form part so that I can just put a strip of glue down that section and put my brown dress form on top. And this way I don't have to match anything up, and I don't have to mess with the little filigree piece at the bottom, nor do I have to mess with the top piece. It's much quicker, and I think it looks better this way. I did leave the waistline. I didn't trim the waistline, and that helped me, position it in the place that it's supposed to go. So I think that's useful. Now I'm putting on the dress that I made, and this time I remembered I only have to put glue down the center of the dress, not all over it. So we did learn something. Yay for me. So that's the dress in its basic form. I think it's super cute, but I wanted to add a little bit of flair at the waistline. This heart die is in the set. There's actually 2 hearts. This is the smallest, and I thought it would be cute on the waistline. And I picked again a piece from the paper pad, but just a slightly different pattern. Here's the card base I've made for this dress, and I've cut the word fabulous. I'll talk about that more in a second. But the card base has a doily in the center, a rectangle, and then I placed that on top of a card base that was already made and had similar colors to what I'm working with. The fabulous word I cut out of gold metallic paper. It's got a polka dot pattern on it, so you can see the dots there a little bit. A few drops of glue here and there will allow me to push that down. And then the sentiment strip that I made has the word friend on it this time, and I heat embossed it with brown embossing powder. Again, I'm using that brown, that neutral brown and gold to work together. And my dress is then going to sit in the center of the doily. I've got a little bit of foam tape down at the base there that I'm pressing down, and also, of course, it's behind my dress. Then I thought it needed a little bit more flair, as you might call it, on this card, so I brought out some green flat back pearls. I put it in the top right corner and the bottom left corner, and then finally a little mini white pearl on that heart. And I think that really finished this card off nicely. I like the pastels. It's more summery perhaps than my other cards. So let's take a quick look at the 3 cards again. They're all quite different, but I love the clean and simple one on the left, the more complex wedding one in the center, and then the pastel one on the right. I hope you'll take a minute to tell me which of these 3 dresses you liked best, and also if you're having fun playing with your own diamond press kit. Well, that wraps it up for me today. Thank you so much for spending some time with me. I've included a few other videos here in case you like to continue watching and getting some ideas. But if not, I'll be back soon with a new video. Take care, everybody. Bye.